So I want to take this opportunity to say welcome to Everyone Has a Voice poetry series in the city of Brockton. This is our first coming out again since the pandemic. Our last poetry event was February of last year, 2020. The irony, it was the month of love. As you see, I still have my mask respectively. Even though I've been vaccinated, we're always taking precautions. But because we're here at open mic, we know that the social distancing space is there and the mask is okay to come off. And I want to say first that it's most important to say bienvenidos. That's in Spanish. It means welcome. Welcome to all that has attended. Welcome to all who is watching this segment even after the fact. This is bienvenidos and welcome from now and moving forward, because we are going with the poetry series for the next few months into the fall. And with that statement, I want to acknowledge Brockton Public Library. I'm very grateful and thankful for its entity, because when I think about the Brockton Public Library, especially in downtown area, I know that it's been a home for many of the homeless people, the youth, the adult, the seniors, all of us. It was not just about getting a book. I encourage you to get a book, but it was also about having a safe haven and a safe place. So even if we may not physically be in there, at least we're able to come under the umbrella of the Brockton Public Library. And with that, I'm just going to say thank you to the director, Paul Engel, who has always been supportive for many entities in our communities and opened the doors and gone above and beyond. And this is why we are here today. I am going... So thank you. I'm going to jump into open mic, because for me, I can sit here and I could talk and I can say, and I can be motivated and inspired by the radiant diversity, the beauty of being here, and the fact that we've been wearing this, and who does not want to talk? So, and we have great people who I'm so happy to see, because if you made it here and you were here part of our group in the past, I don't know what you've gone through, but I'm quite sure that your level of poetry is up to the next level, because somewhere in the midst of this pandemic, it has affected you in your unique way. I also want to share that in the midst of this, the way that we're going to follow today with Everyone Has a Voice, we're going to begin with our open mics. Open mics are our adults, our youth, anyone who wants to express themselves, and the list is available to those who may be inspired while you are sitting and listening to another, in a tinkle or trickle of inspiration wants to outburst. And in the midst, we're going to have an interim. During that interim, myself and Philip Hasaris, the founder of Everyone Has a Voice, we're going to take a momentum with everyone here, everyone who's watching, and everyone who's not here, God rest their souls in peace, to acknowledge the loss of many during the pandemic 2020 and going into 2021, and any losses in general. But we're here to support our community, but we want to take a momentum and acknowledge we made it through, someone did it. But we will carry on their spirits through our words, through our energies, and through our inspiration. And then we will have an exciting feature of our youths and an adult who are continuously aspiring and inspiring in their creative arts individual lives, but always exciting to be part and be featured and show you how they have excelled and what they have been inspired in their now level of creativity of poetry. So at this point, let's begin with Trish Clinton. Trish Clinton, before I pass over the mic, come here, Trish, it's okay, is a lovely sister of the community. She's been inspired. One day, I said, Trish, before the pandemic, I said, we all have poetry within us. In the Latin Women's Association, we have a common Boricua mom of the city of Brockton, and our neighbor, she just happened to be there spontaneously, I have so much to express of myself. This is what the mic is for. Glad to see you again.
Thank you, Allie. Thank you, everyone. And I think it would be just appropriate to start off. I actually wrote a COVID poem, so I titled it, "The World's Gone Crazy, Will It Ever Be Sane?" As the news hit the airway, I gasped and feared, will I be fine? Deaths reported, hearts around the world are broken, so is mine. Far more callous hearts surface, no one cares about mankind. even less regard for the hopeless, hurting, homeless, and blind. World's gone crazy. Will it ever be sane? Too many factors to fathom overwhelms my brain. COVID virus. You must social distance, quarantine, isolate. Can't visit your grandma. No hugs for your grandkids, parents, or your mate. This isn't a serious problem. In a few months, it will subside. Oh no, it's a pandemic. No school for kids, no playing outside. Months turn into a year. Small business owners, a closing shop, lost hope. Families need financial relief and quick, many at the end of their rope. Time for the government to admit this problem is too big to contain. Families are struggling. How does one even survive? Nations dying, paddles don't have enough power to keep us alive. We're slowly bleeding out. The world suffered severe, blunt force trauma. Society brought us to our knees with its shares of trouble and drama. Looting, smashing windows, remaining businesses destroyed. Was it done as a form of protest, lost control, or just filling a void? This isn't real. Please wake me up from this bad dream. No, it really is as bad as it seems. This truly is a fallen world. People have given up trying. If folks say that their efforts made a difference in another person's life, they're surely lying. 'Cause I don't know if we will ever see our faces again. I'm hopeful, maybe someday. I don't know if I can tolerate this new normal, as people say. When I look into the future, is it bleak? Right now, it doesn't look very bright. Many of us are terrified. Hope's been gone. Uncertain variables keep us up at night. Decide today to do your part, no matter how small. Don't just stand idly by. Been complacent too long. Enough. Come on, you'll feel better. You just have to try. Of all the trillions of people existing on Earth, how many are really living? Stop being self-absorbed. Open your heart again to humans and start giving. If we don't do what we can now and be our very best, we'll end up in a real war zone wearing a bulletproof vest. Thank you. And this one I wrote back in 2019, but I revamped it a little bit. It's called Anything is Possible. In my life, there's been people in my path whom give me tremendous heartbreak, leading me down a road that many would refuse to take. Lessons I learned were far more difficult than I imagined, too intense. I've been doing all the work. The feelings left me empty. It makes no sense. The road is a journey, and many will travel far, but never find. The mysteries have left me wondering why the world is so unkind. I'm a giver. I give all that I can, endure more sacrifice than anyone can withstand. Losing sight of myself to fill one's demand? Can it be done? Take this one life and be the change in eternal. Seeking an understanding for my circle, can I find a better path for life eternal? I'm a warrior, a survivor. I've learned that I'm more than just one righteous act that I can do. The changes I make now will make a better life for me and a better future for you. Carrying out what I've been destined to be is often a scary feat, especially when I've been adding up the numerous failures and feelings of defeat. Begin again, do it differently. Do now what I never thought I could ever do. Erase some emptiness and complacency which kept me from following through. Anything is possible. If you believe it, there's success. If you push through the turmoil of the past, lose the anxiety, your doubts, and stress. I'm a new creation. I have to trust in God and who He made me to be. Not trust the world, for at any moment they can swallow me up and put obstacles to deter me. Look into the mirror as if for the first time and see value, purpose, and meaning. Not just beauty, but a woman within, a cause, to follow God's word. To Him I am now leaning. No longer comparing myself to those whose words aren't worth hearing, staying focused this time. I won't let life circumstances offset my course and go veering. I'm a beautiful soul. My kindness and love of others has been found endearing. Be bold and don't hold back the person I've been fearing. Should I be a reflection of peace, truth, and grace? Will I be confident of the process, or will I continue to hide my face? It can be done, it must be done, tired of drowning in my own tears. My faith has been proven. I haven't done this in years. Victory over the battered, tattered, shattered, broken promises of a man. It's imperative that I do this, turn the tide. I must make a stand. Forever in this cycle would be finite, the finish, and it's a place that I can no longer be. If I do not do it for myself, then who? Doing this is a better way and will positively affect me. Dreams don't come true if you remain in the old chains that never set you free. Let us not be lost in the memory of who we're truly meant to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. It was a great opening because it was the acknowledge of a virus that once and continues to affect our humane society. We are in our new social norm. And inspiring and motivational for anyone who may be at a stop stand to come outside of yourself and know you have more life to live and been blessed for this time. We're going to continue forward, and we have one of our poets who has joined us prior to the pandemic and has his ritmo, his rhythm and flow, by continuously coming. And I thank you, and it's great to see you. And I want us to welcome Craig Fredericks, the next open mic poet.
You can call me almost a regular, Craig Fredericks, Easton, OA class 76. I was watching Perseverance land. It's a robot ship that landed on Mars. And it was unloading its little cargo, and it dropped down this little helicopter. It down to the surface. And I said, oh, look, Percy brought a toy. I was talking to my wife. And later on, when they were flying the little helicopter, the NASA people got so excited. You guys are probably watching. It was on CNN. The helicopter went up in the air about 10 feet, came back down. NASA went crazy, jumping around, high-fiving and everything. So I wrote this. Let's see, maybe I should read it. Watching ingenuity, perseverance toy, human perpetuity, NASA's public joy. Thank you very much. This is a summer poem. This is almost summer, right? I heard it was going to be hot today. She was barefoot, and the boardwalk was hot. So she was skipping one mossy crack oasis to the next, occasionally finding maybe a fig leaf of shadow. So I threw down my towel, and she trounced on it and leapt on. Another summer poem. There, feet in the water of a world all ours, except it seems now the dock and the dog. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It feels like the beginning of summer. Yeah. Definitely great feel. And we look forward for summer. And we have continued series into the summer. And as we go forward, the good thing about when we think about summer, we think about rejuvenating and we think about youthful things and fun adventures. So we're going with one of our youths, and her name is Anjali Andrade, who's going to come and is going to share and express herself through poetry. Welcome, Anjali.
Hi everyone, I'm Angela Andrade, and I remember I wrote this poem because my parents lost a business and I had time at home, so I decided to play with my cats. And then I thought, oh, my cat Fuzzy seems very joyful today, So I decided to write this poem for him called My Cat. I love my cat. For Christmas, I got him a baseball bat. He plays more with the ant under the mat. I am deciding to get him a toy rat. His name is Fuzzy and he is very cuddly. When I taunt him, the truth is what he'll want. He can sometimes be funny when he chases a bunny. When Fuzzy scratches me, I feel like I lost 3 card game matches. When Fuzzy is sleeping, I can hear the ants creeping. When I look out the window, I can see other cats peeping. The end.
All righty. Now I think we know who's coming up. And almost Ed, you don't even need an introduction. Because your spirit and energy is always with us. We've had many great events and poetry series and also an upcoming Voices of Diversity this upcoming fall. And it's a great event that we shared with Joseph Polycarp. Polycarpy. He's going to come here and he's going to share he's going to introduce himself. He's going to share great poetry, but he's been inspired in a diverse format. And I thank you for the sisters and mothers when that came during that season of Voices of Diversities. And I look again to have your community family come in the upcoming season. But right now, I want to say thankful and blessed again to see another one of our poets made it through this pandemic season. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm very delighted to be here, and I also would like to thank God because during the epidemic season, I was able to write and finish this book called Where Do They Bury the Dead? And I'm very happy, and it's a beautiful book. And I had this book also that is so great. It's called Grandma Josephina. So I have copies if anybody would like one. And today I would like to read 3 short poems. I'm going to start with the coronavirus as well. The coronavirus. Corona is like an angry frog. The ball eyes can see. Penetrate my system like a bug. I wonder how she found me. Corona made me wiser. She respected no borders. Solitude became my advisor, not the doctor's orders. New York was a scary place. Citizens were in awe and troubled. Everyone walked with covered face. My niece caught it inside her bubble. Scientists scratch their heads. Then discoveries were unsatisfied. Hospitals had no more beds. Our leaders' hands were tied. I stayed indoors and in prayers. I knew I had to fix my eyes on God. This 2020 corona made it a dark year, a year we all feared to travel abroad. Thank you. My next one is like a thief in the night. Like a thief in the night. When he appears in the glorious air, where would he find me? Will he find me on my knees, my eyes closed, my heart tender and free? Will the knock be 3 times? I would be pleased. I will hear his voice calling me by name, or will his siren sing a sweet song to attract me? I will want to be with him. Me, such a lame. Yes, I will be home, wrapped in divine freedom. Will the Lamb find me waiting in the shadow of my shining light to guide me to my destiny he prepared for me? Oh, by the river of life, he and I will sit in heaven, a place that I always dreamed to be. In eternity, My Lord will put the music on, and I will dance with him, the seraphim and the angels. Or I will sit with Abraham, Jacob, Isaac, and John. I will be at home. I will not feel as if I am among strangers. How many ears will be ready to hear his voice? How many eyes will see his face in glory? One thing I will remember to do is rejoice among the mothers and surrender my piteous story. My final one more. It's this one here. It's a true story, and it's been a while, and I was thinking about it. I said, you know what, I should write it. Write a poem about it. Oh, poor girl. She was the only daughter of a poor family. They sent her away for a better future. They brag about their daughter with the rich madam. But the girl was suffering from a certain kind of torture. The madam made the poor girl her slave. The girl was physically and mentally abused. At the age of 12, her husband raped her. Now she was being the subject of higher use. Madam made her dress like the other girls each night. She was taken into a large van into prostitution with rich men. She worked hard during the day, taking care of Madam's home. Madam would say, hurry up, don't let me remind you once again. Before Madame initiated the girls into prostitute, she brought a voodoo priest in the house. The voodoo priest did magic on the poor girl and he stamped her. Madame says, now you can't leave or you will die, little mouse. The girl eats like a horse. I don't know where the food goes. Just make sure tonight you are ready. Oh, such a disgrace. Madame looked at the poor girl from top to bottom. Move, she slapped the girls across her face. Don't let me catch you eating food my husband and I eat. She does not know where to find her parents. They live on the other side of the sea. She grows up to be smart, possessor of generous talent. One day, after a rich man abused her, entitled, he felt sleep. He left his wallet and gun unlocked. Poor girl took the gun. She shot the man twice in the head and took the wallet and a small clock. In the room, she watched Madame walk across the ladies' room. She followed her and shot her. She took her purse with enough money. She escaped in Madame coat made of fur. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. Very inspiring. We're going to continue to go forward with our open mic. Before I introduce Jason, I want to share what I loved about poetry is there's always a type of poetry for everyone, and it was always the haikus, because if I didn't have a poem or something that I wanted to read, I could immediately take it back to elementary days where you have to count your syllables and begin with the 575, and then you have a haiku. And then what I want to share is that we also have great poets from our past generations. We find them at the library. Brockton Public Library has many, many great books. We have poets like Edgar Allan Poe that has beautiful writings that you can go on and find books, hardcover, softcover. We have Maya Angelou, very, very, very diverse culture in giving a voice of that ethnicity, as well as we have many more diverse entities of international poets. And that's to also to be shared and encouraged for voices of diversity. There is one little haiku that this one is not mine. I definitely can assure you that for my intervals in the upcoming series, I will begin to write and begin to share haikus motivated by the presence and also by my personal inner being. But now I want to acknowledge a poet named Yosa Busan, because when I think about what we're doing here, I think about that we're not just passing the mic as an open mic, we're not just sharing words and in here, but lighting one candle can be interpreted in your individual formats. You can take what you read it as it is, or apply it, diversity, inclusion, and creativity. So, Lighting One Candle by Yosa Busan. The light of a candle is transferred to another candle. Spring twilight. Light can be significant, and it could mean many different things. You have a light in you, you have a light to see visually, but what we're doing here is we're sharing our words and transferring open mic from one poet to the next to transfer those vibes and energies to your soul. So with that being said, when I met Jason Wright, when he's the next poet, when he came to, he has a book, he's an author. But before I share that, and before I share of Jason Wright, and Jason Wright comes and shares a little bit more, he touched my heart and soul because my hometown is Cambridge. My adopted town is Brockton. I've been here for over 20 years, but I was born in Cambridge. And he has this book, it's called The Train of Thoughts by Jason Wright. And the train means the train as the mobility of the red line was one of his poems that he read. I said, wow, I'm here in Brockton, but you took me across the red line through the Charles River. You can know more and learn more about the book, and he can share. And Jason Wright is part of the Oddball magazine. And he has established, because his primary focus has always been mental health and the well-being. He has a 501(c) dedicated for the mental health, and he's found a way to express and heal himself, but share with others. I no longer have to go forward because Jason Wright is a brethren of our poetry family. Welcome.
Good, man. I'm good. So I thought maybe I'd first start with my first book, Letter to the World, a poem from that, and it's called I See Change. I see change. I see it as I place it in a poor man's hand. A poor man, a veteran, finding solace in the songs he sings, for the wars he has fought for no other reason than a change in the seasons. I see different now. I see hope. I wish I did. I don't know if I'm telling the truth or if I know what the truth is. I'm just trying to feel good for a minute, as I seldom see the nighttime as a source of light. I create art. I create enough art for both of us. What words are heard when you say you're hurt? When you say you spent it all on the rent? When you say you are unhappy, I listen. I try to, but I sometimes get interrupted, as a poet often does. That's from my book, A Letter to the World. It's my first book, and it's a series of poems, and these are all kind of chronological, but these poems were all written on the red line, and they're called Train of Thought because they were written in a series of anxiety-induced moments where I just couldn't do anything but write. So here's an example of a poem. This is called Train Poem number 710. 710 thought broadcasts today. That means when you thought broadcast, that means you think someone can hear your thoughts, and so you constantly do it. It's like a cycle. It's really annoying, and it happens a lot with me. Train Poem 710. 710 thought broadcasts today. 710 negative thoughts in normal situations. At least 100 in the morning at the train station, and depression is driving my train off thought right out of rotation. And now I'm back and blind, trying to unwind after the grind. My spine is tired of holding my pathetic head up. I feel like I'm in cement, demented and stuck. My mentality ferments in a cold basement where no light comes in to illuminate the empty spaces. So how was your day? Did you feel love today? I wish you do. I hope you have not only a good weekend, but a nice life. When you don't feel too beaten and don't feel too stuck, I hope you never feel this defeated. I hope you're strong enough to rise above. I hope and wish you all the best of luck, and the lonely find love and the sad get hugs. I hope if you don't have a lot of money that you find a lucky lottery ticket, and if you hate your job, you quit. I hope that if you're tired, you sleep well again. I hope you can still read these words that are written. I hope you can still dream and your dreams are vivid, that your life is vivid. I hope you and your wife are happy. I hope that your husband treats you good. I hope if you're lost as I am, you are one day understood. I just wish you all the best and hope I can feel like you once or twice. I hope you're happy and healthy. I wish you all the best in life. That's what I would love, to feel like the rest, instead of drowning in a world that never really relents, never lets up until you're dead. I want peace of mind, like a man who finds a stone that gives him the ultimate prize. I wish you could see the world through my eyes. I wish my mind would be silent and I wore those rose-colored glasses that you do. I wish I could sleep forever and dream like someone who does, who's deep in love. I just wish this train ride was over so I could put this pen down. So, in the course of like growing up and moving on with my life and kind of getting used to having a mental health issue, which I very much used to, and I advocate for it. And real quick, just one of the takeaways about mental health is just sharpen the language up a little bit and destigmatize. It's a very easy way of doing it, just by taking away the stigmatic language of it. So it's just a thought to think about. But this poem, I was bullied as a kid, and this poem is called Free Prose for Ben the Bleacher Bully, and I wrote this like 3 months ago. The world of a madman shown through loose-leaf pages, the years of torn notebooks from forgotten sages, misplaced thoughts forever dated, inked and penned from forgotten science majors, each kept never thrown away. The light illuminated, made men wasted, broke me down in Nevertown to Somedayville and said I could never make it. I was frozen, naked, trapped and caged, the madness loomed like cherry blossoms in foreign places. Medicated I was and thrown on the bus, brought to a different stage. My face was plastic and waxed and wasted. My waistline grew, my happiness faded. Took my medicines, many of them, till I felt I overstayed my welcome, took a bunch of other meds, got scared, depressed, still couldn't pay attention, thought I was a joke. Each cigarette smoked helped me for a second, each drink and toke would help me, but my mind would send messages, scary thoughts broadcasted, embarrassed failure. It was an epidemic. Through the scars and bruises and mistakes, I made them. But that one thing that remained faithful was music. The pen scratching on the table, coffee in my veins, my hands shaking. I would write till the page was an earthquake, the aliens, moon landing, an avalanche, a heartbreak. All to the sound of the scratching pages I kept with it through all the grown man shit I faced it. Lost friends to death. Said I was not going that way. Met friends, saw them make their mistakes, some fatal. And some got them locked up, and I was just like them on a path, but I took that page, tore it up. Kept going in my notebook, refused to fold, and I never gave up. Climbed up this irreversible mountain, kept climbing, found something in writing. Maybe that's for sure why I still exist, because two things. I put down the drinks and drugs, made my fists stronger, learned how to fight, spoke my mind, refused to be a medicinal victim any longer. So Sense was a psych ward celebrity, but then bam, Oddball went mainstream. Maybe you don't know it. It's Oddball magazine, been a dream since I was 15 and keeps growing. But back to the ocean of mind, my mental floating on subway bridges. I didn't want to live it, but yo, for some reason I kept going, so now I'm open, I let all the world in. So my job is a certified peer specialist. That means if you've been through it, I've been through it too, and love the life I'm living in. Maybe it's not the best thing, and I still have to take medicine. But the paper and pen tattooed on my skin, the magazine I make every day keeps me going. So I wrote this on a break at Riverside. Thank you for letting me speak my mind for a brief time. For some reason, when I listen to Philip Glass, I just get like this and write like this. So back to the beginning, because it always starts with an ending. It was persistence to keep going, to refuse to stay broken. And truthfully, each time I stepped to the mic and recited what I wrote, made me feel so good inside and gave me a sense of pride, but for so long it just helped me to keep on. Peace to the Boston poetry community, you put me on. Writing, singing shitty songs, strumming along to 4 chords and then some, but always in rhythm. Now I'm changing the system in the way I think of it. I'm not talking the system, I'm talking about the words written in the nervous system, the subparticle organism, intelligence that goes with it. I'm reading a book called Punk Science right now, and me, I'm a punk scientist. That's why I write like this. spreading like a virus, only to open up your eyelids that you may not know me and probably definitely didn't know me then. Back then, even then when they bullied me, to be bullied on the T, being seen as a freak, labeled and thrown down in psych ward sheets. But yo, that was then. This is now. You gave me the strength to keep on. Maybe it was my anger and confusion turned into hope and respect for the people with anger and confusion. The lens that we're all going through something and that we aren't losing if we keep moving. I have too much respect for this world, this craft of writing things down in rhythm. The soulful system of magical thinking turned constant wisdom into this piece I'm reading, finding something in nothing. It's like a Seinfeld way of thinking. Thanks for letting me in. And by the way, Ben, the bleacher bully, winner is winning. So, I want to thank you all. I got both of these books on me right now, and I'd love to talk to you about my 501c3, the Oddball Foundation, which is a mental health agency that I established to give back to the community. Thank you.
Alrighty, so we are just about in our little Woosai interim break. But before that, as I stated as we began, I said that it's most important, especially when we know of the city of Brockton, in many other cities, in any parts of the states, in many other countries, not in the in the best of healthcare and wellness, many lives have passed and many have died. We've seen death in a way that we've read about in our history time frame, and yes, you can find a book at the Brockton Public Library. Books are beautiful. But this momentum means that it's important to take a momentum, a moment of silence. It can just be a mere pause. 1, 2, 3, pause. God rest the souls and encourage and to be strengthened to those who are here, to those who lost, to those even watching the TV segment who you cannot come out of your house because of the fears that we have. Yes, there's no mask on now. I encourage the vaccinations, and there's very informative information in your government websites, but as well, the Brockton Public Library. So why I say that is that it's important to acknowledge a passing or disease, especially when it's something as the pandemic or what we've seen in the past have occurred that can kill, not seen, visibly seen or identified till after the fact, till it was too late. But it's never too late because it's part of our plan. And if we know in our humanity, the cycle repeats itself one way or another. So in the midst of this, my colleague Philip Hasoris, not only is he the founder and the president of Everyone Has a Voice, he also has a workshop series called Expressive Healings. He has done through the Brockton High School, through the Boys and Girls Club. I was able to attend one, but he himself is an inspired poet due to the loss of his beloved loved one. I asked during this momentum and this acknowledge for the losses of the many that we've lost during our pandemic season, whether it's the virus or not, but the loss of losses, for him to pick a poem of his book called The Light of the Moon. And in The Light of the Moon, there's the highlight of the poem itself. He himself is best to share with you before the reading. Philip Hasoris, it's an honor and a pleasure to welcome you to this reading.
Thank you, everybody. Can we show our appreciation for Allie and what a wonderful job she's doing? So Allie picked this poem for me to read. And this was written after my wife passed away. These are one of the poems that I wrote. Light of the Moon. Thoughts brim over at odd hours in the middle of conversations. The end of an 8-second dream seems like an eternity. In the light of the moon, brainwaves solidify the past. Vivid interpretations flood into the present. Mind departs from morning to set free the future. I hear two full crows cause and affect echo, breaking down inner scars. Over here, denial from Peter. I hear myself argue. I hear myself deny. I hear myself self-destruct. The surface of my skin sobs, shed membrane, come out of myself. I am sleep writing. I hear children scream, women whimper, men cry, when the sun and the moon share the sky. I reach out for you, infinite.
So this interim is just for a few minutes, about not even less than 5 minutes. It gives you time to get up, to stretch out, continue to get this great breathing air that we have. And when we return, we're going to begin with our features, and we're going to begin with our youth feature, going into our aspiring young adult, into our matured adult, so that way you can experience and see the beauty of poetry, how it evolves. And at this time, this is a moment of pause and reflections of what we've expressed. And again, I thank you in your continuity to be here with the closing, but most supporting us. Thank you. Welcome back, everyone, from our interim to Everyone Has a Voice. And as we continue in our segment, this is the dessert of our lovely meal of beautiful words. Before I begin forward with our youth, it's inspiring to know and continue as a woman, as a mother, and sometimes as an adult, we think that we are the ones who are inspiring always continuously our youth, but sometimes the youth inspire us as adults. They have insights and many beautiful things, as we shared through the poetry of Angélie in the presence of her mother. We have an upcoming mother of our featured poet, and before our featured poet is going to be presented, Atalia LaFleur joins us in the audience to support her daughter. And when she joins us, she is that being, I guess, where the vibes and energies are motivating to say, and if you are in the midst of us and inspired to share a poem in the midst, here comes Atalia LaFleur. And LaFleur is French, and to me in Spanish, it's La Flor. And when you think about it, you think about a good ground root planting of seeds. If you have a good garden, that seed that is planted will grow beautifully. The flower will then pass away, but the seed is there. Atalia is the mother of Lola, and she will be the introductory to Lola as her mother with her poem. Welcome, La Flor.
Oh, wow, she just like blew me away. So I wrote this. It's about courage and being brave. And it's very short. My voice. My voice will be heard. You hear me, and you wonder, what will she say? My voice will say you are loved, you are thought of, you're inspired by someone, you have inspired someone, and today you have inspired me. My voice says I love you, I hope you're well. Are you not? Please tell me. My voice will speak for you, as your voice will speak for you. Will you speak for me? I have questions. What is happening today? Do they care? Do we really care? What will they do, or what will we do? Will it hurt? It won't hurt me because I'm numb. I will survive. Will you? My voice has been heard. I have spoken. I have questions. This is my voice, but in reality, this is my voice in you. Thank you.
All righty, it's a true pleasure to get to this part of this segment. I'm going to introduce our first youth, and then I'm going to continue with our young adult youth, and then we're going to proceed forward where Jason is going to introduce our featured adult poet. As we continue, we're going to now welcome Lola Bennett. And before she comes to the mic, I'm going to give a brief description, but I want to acknowledge her presence here of her youth and continued youth. Lola Bennett is 15, and when we think of 15 in our Latino culture, we think of it of a primary year. In our American culture, we call it Sweet 16, but we acknowledge the 15. 15 is a quinceañera. It's an acknowledgement of womanhood, of maturity, of ladylike, but yet you're still youth, you're still a babe, and you're still young, and mom wants to preserve that. and dad, too. And now, Lola has grown with us because she has come to us before 15, and she has shared her poetry, and she has inspired and aspired and has great words to share and continues to grow that within her as she is blessed with the birthing of a great gift yet to be mastered in her many levels of elevation in life. So here we go with Lola. Lola is 15 and goes to the Southeastern Regional Vocational High School. She enjoys music, reading, and dance. Writing has always played a major role in her life, whether it was poetry, short stories, or the beginning of a book that she knew she would never finish. Writing and poetry is a journey of life. And it's not finished because if you think about life as it transcends into where we may or may not know the afterlife, I know that if you're a poet, your poetry will always continue on infinity. Poetry has had a major impact of her life because she believes that you can say whatever you want and it can somehow lead back to the topic of the poem. Sounds like your average teenager, doesn't it? But she's found a way to articulate in a positive energy that she too has a voice that everyone needs to hear after youth, as an advocate, as a young lady, as an individual of diverse culture and background. Now, let's say it reminds Lola of a real world magic. Let Lola Bennett come into this open mic now and share the magic of her world through her vision and through her poetry. Welcome, Lola.
Hi. This is my third time being a student feature for the series. I really enjoy poetry. It's really become a big part of my life, from a young age especially. And I just like having a way to creatively express, say whatever you have to say, but have a big impact behind it. And I have two poems today that kind of serve a really big impact to myself. And the first one is Secret Roses. I've never been anyone's first pick. Third and fourth place have become untrustworthy compliments, a double-edged sword engraved with every one of my faults. Starting out as a dagger the size of a small stick, growing into a rose bush, each flower a sickly dark red guarded by razor thorns only dared to be touched by the incompetent. Until even they stopped stopping to admire the roses surrounded by its thorn vault. Left with nothing but its thorns to stare at, the roses decided to grow into the biggest and most beautiful flowers the world had yet to see. However, without the eyes of the world, only the thorns grew and the sickly dark petals seemed to wilt. Hidden by the procrastination of the gardener, the roses, luscious and soft, rotted away to hard buds that never bloomed, nor were they picked. So there they sit, hidden by their faults and trees, ignored by the world, from you, but never from me. As I sip from my weekly fill of anxiety, patiently I sit as I feel my roses wilt, my world tilts, and I am left alone with me, myself, and I. And my second poem is called How Am I Supposed to? and I wrote it for a school project. It is more of a mental conversation for between, I feel, more like a teenager and her, and it continues to her older self, of talking to society and what society has as its standards, like weight, beauty, you know, things like that. Good morning. Your breakfast options are either eat and be called fat or bland stale air that won't taste as bad when chased with water. How am I supposed to last till lunch then? Well, that's quite easy, too. For lunch, we have the same options of air or being fat. Well, what if I just eat salad? It's healthy, right? No, no, no. If people see you eating salad, they will laugh at you for being fat and trying to be skinny. But how am I supposed to eat anything? Simple. You don't. Don't you want to fit into your clothes? Oh, and don't forget to wear pink on Wednesdays so you won't be exiled from the clique. And make sure you brag about everything you've done with Aaron, Jason, and James. But I haven't done anything with Aaron, Jason, or James. I'm dating Chase. Don't you want to seem experienced and mature? But how am I supposed to be known as loyal? Loyalty got no one nowhere. Remember when Simon cheated on you and you still took him back? That wasn't very loyal, and you cried for weeks. Silence. Yeah, that's what I thought. Just listen to me and you will be perfect. 10 years later, I am now perfect, yet I don't feel it. My heart reaches, races, chases for what I do not know, things I once knew once upon a dream, back when sweatshirts were okay to be in my wardrobe, back when it was okay to fall in love, when body counts didn't matter, all sweet dreams that were alive once upon a dream. You are perfect now, don't worry about those lies. You have your money, your clothes, boys chasing after you. Those surgeries really did you something good. But how am I supposed to be perfect if perfection is changed every day? How am I supposed to have that perfect love story without one? Perfection is not defined by a person. There will always be cracks and destructive thoughts behind them. Perfection lies in emotions, in scenes, not in body or wealth. Perfection lies in your own mind concept. Perfection is a word that has been broken and tormented, twisted into broken shards of glass that hurt everyone the word touches. And it has touched many. Thank you.
That was beautiful. And one of the most beautiful things in our humanity is when you find and you can hear and you can see your youth, a very young youth in the aspects of learning what it is to be in the real world, to know that she can identify herself and has overcome or is overcoming, but found expresses where she can be that peer, that other youth, that other motivating and inspired, because our youth deal with many mental health issues. They deal with this depression, their voices aren't heard, their self-confidence may be dim, but to have someone like Lola come and share and inspire and acknowledge the awareness of her inner being, in her outer being, in the beauty, in most embrace educational inspirations, and the continuity of going into another level of maturity in our society. I want to continue on because as a youth, when you enter teen, you have other stages of teenagers. You have stages of those teens who are in transition from junior high to senior, where you're like getting ready to get pushed and say you're the ultimate adult, but you have that fear factor that says, I want to be, I know I'm going to be, but I still am not an adult. That's when they pull out that card, you know? They're an adult. And when they need not to be an adult, they remind you, I'm still youth. And our next featured is a senior of the Brockton High School. She's not just the next senior graduate to me, to us in this community of poetry here, and everyone has a voice. I remember when Miss Sue Fofana, that sounds like a designer's name, if she had a clothing line, I would say, Miss Sue Fofana, is it in my budget? I don't know. It speaks quality. And Miss Sue Fofana, to me, presented herself as humble, beautifully elegant, shy, but she had a voice. She has a voice. And her voice has grown, even to the extent that after she graduates this year, she's even more powerful than many in our society going to join the Marines. I was shocked in the middle of our poetry sessions to powwow with her, and I say, Miss Sue Fofana, You continue to enlighten us with your inner and outer beauty, your strengths, your acceleration to excel as empowered woman. And now I'm going to share a little bit of her because I want her to share and feature her poetry and let us acknowledge her and congratulate her for making it through as a young woman of color of diverse cultural backgrounds. Mesua Fofana is a senior at Brockton High School who aspires to major in computer science in college. She has always been passionate about languages and means of communications and has dedicated the past 4 years to writing poetry about her experiences as a Ghanaian and American teenager. That is what we are in this America. We are many born here and many born of parents migrated from many beautiful countries all over the world. And when you're in America, you are 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10, or 10 out of 10, you are automatically in genetic bloodline multicultural. It's just we are diverse in a beautiful way. A teenager, among other topics, Ms. Sua started writing after taking poetry class and has since found a lifelong partner in the art of poetry through which she shares her inner thoughts and her vivid imagination. She is an avid reader. Again, our libraries, we have to continue. They are open, they're closed to the public, but they're open to offer books and you can continue reading. It's not just your phone, it's not just a laptop or a computer, but that good feel of a published book of someone's thoughts in someone's hands that created that book to represent a support of the thoughts of the arts, poetry, writing in all formats. We're going to continue so that we can bring Ms. Sua Fofana here. So in her biography, she finds inspirations in the craft of French authors. She's expanded her desire to other international cultural authors and writers, such as Victor Hugo and Sophie de Arboville, and hopes to one day publish her own poetry book. In closing with that, Ms. Fofana, you can do it. And I look forward to seeing and witnessing a book that you have written. Welcome.
Okay. So I'll read a couple of poems. They're not all about the same. I'll read in English and then I'll read in French, and so that you guys can understand what I mean. And if there are some French speakers here, you're gonna have double the same. The poems will keep the same essence, the same meaning, but the words are not exactly the same, like translated. So this one is called Refined Ebony. Where I come from, there is yellow like the midday sun under which one gulps down a good tomato sauce. Red like the hibiscus tea that bathed in water waiting to defrost. There is white like the salted and steamed yams sold on the sidewalks. And brown like my grandmother's skin with a sweet gloss. Orange is seen everywhere on smiles because cola is the favorite pastime of the elderly. The gray of the clouds goes and spreads leisurely, while the green of my prayer mat covers me and lessens the storm in my thoughts. The calming blue dominates the morning sky, pink refining schoolgirls, checkered uniforms, whose innocence preserves them from the last goodbye. And in the daily rainbow I bathed, learning to love every nuance intertwined, covering myself with coffee caramelized hue of a kind. My skin I praise for its cocoa glaze, which invokes everyone's glaze as it shines like the rays of a caramel blazed sun. I run my survival, a pursuit eternal. I no longer walk around in my unique fabric, flamboyant and indigo. Today I wear a permanent ebony veil along with my skin's glow. Too early for me to abandon this quest. The little bird knows its path to the nest. Because it is early, it is clear that if I hesitate, I will succumb to the last blow. Yet, I stop and admire the kingdom of color that surrounds me. From the purest black to the most chaste white, I embrace the red, yellow, and green that I've made myself me. Thank you. I read the same poem but in French. Et ça s'appelle L'ébène qui en ressort. L'ébène qui en ressort. Là d'où je viens, il y a du jaune comme le soleil de midi sous lequel l'on s'affaisse pour déglutir une bonne sauce tomate. Du rouge comme l'huile de palme qui bouillit en attendant la cuisson des patates. Il y a du blanc comme les douces ignames au sel et à la vapeur qui se vendent sur les trottoirs. Et du brun comme le grand boubou de ma grand-mère prenant ses ablutions avec sa bouilloire. L'orange se voit partout sur les sourires, car les colas sont passe-temps favoris de ceux plus âgés. Le gris des nuages se propage et s'amasse à tout loisir, tandis que le vert de mon tapis me couvre à chacune de mes veillées. Le rose se retrouvant sur les écolières en tenue carrelée, dont l'innocence les guide pour suivre leur destin. Et dans ce arc-en-ciel journalier, je me suis baignée, apprenant à aimer chaque nuance entremêlée, me recouvrant de cette teinte cacao caramélisée. Ma peau je célèbre, ma peau j'élève, ma peau me préserve, de ma peau relève ma survie, se révèle un éternel pourchat. Je ne me promène plus dans mon pagne couleur unique et flamboyant et indigo. Aujourd'hui je porte un voile permanent d'ébène, de même que ma peau. Trop tôt pour que je n'abandonne cette quête, trop tôt ne se tape plus la tête, car il m'est clair que si je l'abandonne, je n'en serai plus pour en payer la dette. Pourtant je m'arrête et j'admire le rayon de couleurs qui m'entoure. Du noir le plus pur au blanc le plus chaste, j'embrasse le rouge, le jaune et le vert qui m'ont fait de moi ce que je suis. Merci. This one is entitled Human I Am, Human We Are, and it's going to touch a bit about topics that I found important to me and I felt like I had to talk about them. So, yeah. I have lived black in the eyes of a world ruled by the color white. White angels, white Christ, white all, the devil's black with red horns, and the black child is always the bad child. I have lived a girl in a society where patriarchy applies never-ending pressure to bend me into submission and obedience. Revoking my humanity, I had to learn to fight. I have lived Muslim in the world, or so I thought. My experiences as a Muslim was, in today's world, different. The world I grew up in as a Muslim compared to the one I observe now resembled a paradise. I was lucky to live in a country where more than a mixture of faith was created a mixture of humanity. My religion was no more and no less than it was, and my skin was only ordinary. I get up and say now, free we go. Not because my favorite TikToker put a blue heart in their description. And when I scream hands off my hijab, it's not because an Instagrammer wrote it on their hand. I cry because the pains of my heart seem invisible to your heart, to your eyes. Do you remain cold to my grief because you're not Muslim? Do you refuse to hear my pains because you're not a woman? Then I implore you to pay attention to my violated humanity, to stand up for the same humanity for which you have fought centuries and millennia after centuries and millennia. I beg, free Palestine, quite simply for the same humanity, so that you hear the cries of injustice and understand the pain of those whose hearts are torn out of their chest, helpless in the face of their spilled blood. What did you do before? Me, I remember my history when my motherland was occupied. In fact, my ancestors objected. They chose freedom, even in poverty. What am I to do when history repeats itself? I question myself. The answer unveils itself as the history of my people reminds itself to me, and I owe to myself to remain true. Remember the story when the world sat down, eyes closed, facing the despair of others, that until today no one can say otherwise, that the lives lost will no longer be. The present never the same as before. Remember when the land you claimed to be yours was occupied and you refused subordination. From the top of your throne, from your safety, do not make the same mistake you made in the past. Imitate your courage and your will to speak up, to take actions. Isn't it enough to mourn your children lost in conflict? Then I pray for all of us to see the horror we're watching spread. To everyone, for everyone. I say a free Uyghur, hands off my hijab, and free Palestine, because it is my freedom that constitutes my humanity, and seeing that humanity being snatched away from others obliges me to address it. Thank you. I wrote this one a couple of years ago, but I really liked it, and it's called Murder by Strangulation. The title does not come from me. It comes from an artist that I really liked, and it was from a school project where we had to take song titles and write poems about those titles, even if it's related to the topic of the song. So it's called Murder by Strangulation. Sweet words, sweltering hugs, calcinating kisses, revolver glances, poisonous suckers, lacerating pettings. We complimented each other with kind insults, target of many disputes. Thus, I stayed mute. We talked on the phone while my battery was dying out. Dates were no longer on the calendar, though I checked the time every day. We danced differently each time with my arms seized by you on a deafening music to make me waltz in the sky-colored dress. I've seen my body covered of a little more each turn while my hair was a mess and my cheek oppressed by the pressure of the sound. We danced for so long, but I always thought it was a solo interpreted by you, and your hands on my hips all along froze my pelvis while I couldn't take any more moves. My legs couldn't run, away there was no music. I could only stand up and dance with you. Dance, 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 and dance. No shoes, full dress, no sound, full steps. Pounds on the chessboard, my body was mortified by your bestial rhythm, and my breathing jerked by the embracing of our bodies. I do not care anymore. My heels are broken, my makeup ruined, and I should start them all over again, while this applause chokes me, enough to bury me in my youth, premature death by these hands of yours, spinning with grace, ending in ashes under the world's eyes. Murder by strangulation. Finally, I would like to read a couple of haikus. Some of them are supposed to be haikus, but they ended up being more than 575, so I call them non-haikus, and I'll share that with you too. The first one is called Year-Round Cycle. Spring is flowers, winter is cold and merry, time flies by summer. The next one is called He Never Stayed for Long. The wind blew strong, the stranger was to stay, he left as he came. And then the last one is called Grandfather. Come, Grandpa is here. He tightly hugged the munchkins, gone before we grew. And then I'll read the non-haikus in French first, because I wrote them in French, and then I was like, let me translate for people as well. So the first one is called La Foule. Dans le jardin doré, va et vient la foule. Pour ceux qui l'ont honoré, elle espère retrouver son amour. The next one is called The Myth of Icarus, ou le mythe d'Icare. Aux ailes brûlées, Icare non plus je suis. J'ai mûri d'hier à aujourd'hui. And the last one is called L'araignée, the spider. Lambeau de toile que cache l'araignée dans ses filets, le cocon qui se naît ne laissa pas un poil. And now I'll translate those for you so you guys can understand. In the golden garden, the crowd comes and goes. For those who honored her, again she hopes to find her lover. The myth of Icarus. With burnt wings, Icarus neither am I have matured from then to now. And then the spider. Shred of web, what is the spider hiding in its net? The cocoon to be born left not a single hair. And then finally, I'll read two in French that I had a hard time translating in English, so I'll just leave you guys with those in French. La danse du feu. Flamme crépitante, le papillon danse une valse, demain que cendre. Le temps gris. Soleil attristé, que nuage conforte, l'aurore s'enfuit. Thank you.
There's something about the beautiful French language that even if you don't understand, there's love in the air. Well, now this for myself as the hosting is I'm coming to a closing of the hosting because I'm going to pass it over to the masculinity of our segment. we're going to have Jason Wright come back up front. He is going to introduce the feature of features, our adult poet, Marlon Carey, and I know I'm ready to take my seat so I can vibe and get that energies that these gentlemen have in our family of community of poetry. And Philip Hasoris, my beloved colleague, I thank you for this opportunity once again to share, to host, to co-host with you in a beautiful entity that you have created. He will close out and we will share our next upcoming Everyone Has a Voice for the next 2 segments for the ending spring and upcoming summer. Thank you. It was a pleasure, an honor, and it's a blessing. And for me, I thank God for this opportunity and making it through. Per my faith, I would say my prayers, my hearts, and my thoughts will always be with you all, respectively stated as an interfaith believer.
So I have the pleasure to introduce Marlon Carey. I'm really excited. The person who's about to come up is a real legend of the spoken word scene, so I'm really happy to be here to witness this. You're really about to see some cool, innovative poetry. So Marlon Carey is a poet, educator, actor, communicator, entertainer, peace. Carey has written and taught poetry and creative writing for several years. He's a community activist and has worked for and in collaboration with numerous neighborhood development, outreach, and community advocacy organizations. He goes as the hip-hop poet Infinite, pronounced Infinite. Carey was a member of the 2010 Boston Lizard Lounge Poetry Slam and is currently ranked 11th in the nation. And he was named Best Hip-Hop Poet by the Cambridge Poetry Awards 2 years in a row. He has also been the Boston Cantabs Lounge's Grand Slam champion. Carey brings a refreshing twist on performance poetry. His charming flow, poignant, clever lyrics, serious fondness for language are blended artfully to create a unique presentation. The Bard, he loves Shakespeare, he teaches Shakespeare. Looking really forward to having this poet up on stage, Marlon Carey, everybody.
One, two, 1, 2. Hello? Hi, everybody. How you doing? 1, 2, 1, 2. This is stronger. Test, test, test. Is not as good. All right. I hate to change everything up, but I'm fairly loud, and I like to be heard. Can you hear me in the back? Across the street. Chickens, how you doing? I literally was gonna ask, why did the chicken want to cross the road? For the poetry on the other side. There you go. I'll be gone. Hi, everybody. I'm very honored and glad to be welcomed here today to join you on this wonderful day. Everyone, give it up for yourselves for being outside. You don't love yourselves. Give yourselves a hand for being outside. Come on. Yeah. And now give it up for the young poets who came before me. Please give it up for the youth. Give it up, give it up, give it up. Very, very proud and glad to hear them do their thing. I'm just honored to be a part of this. Let's just warm up. Can we warm up a little bit? All right. Poetry is my passion. Prejudice is my pain, and my purpose is change. When I preach, I can't pretend, and so I push past the pretenses of poo-poo poetry and put forth poems for people to ponder and perceive. I'm no prophet, just a poet, putting it all into perspective with the my prose is playful yet potent. Please be patient whilst I perfect my poetic prowess by practicing with the P's. I like pea-funk and pea-fruit, like peaches, papayas, pears, plums, pineapples, pomegranate, and potatoes, which really aren't fruit. But please, permit it as I proceed. I promise not to prolong this presentation, but this poem has possessed, and so I persist. My pen is poised above the paper, and with each stroke I plunge into the paragraphs of paraphernalia. And now, I prefer the P's, and I'm digging P poets like Ezra Pound and Edgar Poe and Sylvia Plath, opting for P words from foreign places like Paris, parlez-vous, that have a piñata filled with a plethora of poems, and when it pops, poets pour in with pen and pawn to partake of what I have provided promptly. Phew. And that's how I warm up, and I'm by myself. So glad you guys are here to join me for this. So we're out and about, and we are coming, away from moving out of a very traumatic and tragic. Some of us lost people this time that we had. I lost my grandfather, and then shortly after that, I lost my favorite uncle. And it was just very, very devastating. And I'm sure we all have stories like that, right? Close calls and so forth. So this is an actual celebration of life. And so as I'm sitting there listening and looking at everyone, this poem came to me that I hadn't really done in years, to be honest with you. But I thought it was something that I should try to bring back up. So if you would not mind, I'd like to open up with that piece. It's called Inscriptions. The inscriptions are encrypted, and the scriptures are a cryptic maze as we turn a new page in this apocalyptic phase. Some will become infected with catastrophic rage. Others will reach for the handle and instead seize the blade. Records will be played and scratched up. Records will be played and scratched up as DJs devise new ways to get you to get your backs up off the wall, while elsewhere a tree falls. A child calls. An old man crawls on his knees through broken slivers, trying to feed his broken liver. As his blood becomes a river, we shiver and cling to old things for clarity. Yet even in the quiet places, there is no serenity. Peace comes in pieces, so I make sails to capture breezes. Signs of the time we see Judas and call him Jesus. Destinations defy descriptions as I reach for the horizon and seek better visions, but sails tend to rip apart during transitions. So I again take up the pieces and begin transcriptions. I write my own inscriptions, leave my own sacred predictions, and so that they may remain sacred always, I encrypt them. And some will discover the secrets I have lain and find roses that bloom in the gardens of pain. Some will find the true meaning of a name or fame or a frame of mind suitable to hold their enormous visuals, dreams within dreams that expand the peripheral and rise like miracles. Prophets speak in centrifugal tongues and eardrums go numb for a lack of clarity, while we report to holy places with false alacrity. While some go without sustenance for a lack of charity, and charity is love. May it rain manna from above once more, Lord. Your children grow weary. I suppose in your grief it is difficult to hear me, but stay near me, hold me, rock me till I sleep. Help me to dig for truth until the world becomes too deep. Help me to seek the truth until the words become too deep. Help me to find the truth behind every heartbeat. And I thought, we're here, a very diverse looking crowd, right? We represent America, all the different shades and backgrounds and religions and things. So I thought I'd do this other piece called Chocolate Nachos. Is there a way, I see some water over there, is there a spare bottle of water somewhere? Do I have my bottle of water? A little dry mouth right now. This lovely young lady is coming. Thank you very much. Okay. This is the story of the chocolate nachos, a snack I invented with my best friend Paco with some minor assistance from Rocco, Renee, and Flacco. But let me stop though, so I can tell you a little bit of a lot so you can truly understand that sneaky, underhanded, no good, dirty, rotten so-and-so named Rocco. See, Rocco is that bully from up the block, who broke my yo-yo, ate my Oreos, and put rocks in my socks. Even broke my favorite CD by Tupac, that darn Rocco. He just comes over that day with his little sister Renee and her scraggly old teddy bear named Flacco and sticks his grubby little sausage fingers right into our chocolate nachos. And well, it all started with me and Paco. We were trying to find a distraction, a deviation from his stepmom's gazpacho, when we happened upon the aforementioned chocolate nachos. Now, we almost invented the chocolate taco, but we Googled it and found they already got those now. Paco swears it's all because he put in so many nachos, but I poured in the most chocolate. He must have forgot, though. And you know Paco, he lies a lot, though. He says his mom won the lotto and they won a lotto. They're going to move away any day now. Anyway, anyhow, this is about the time when Rocco comes bursting in through our unlocked door, and with her teddy bear in tow comes his little sister Renee, who cries a lot. No matter what you do to get her to stop. Hey, Renee, how about some leftover party pretzels and a bowl of this delicious gazpacho? She started crying and running away from us as if we had the chicken pox or worked for the Gestapo. She ended up in the living room where she slipped on a slimy sock, so she tripped on the rug and swallowed a bug and soiled her frock. And that darn Rocco, that insufferable Rocco, pushes her over the line. He goes, "Stop your crying!" And all this time, Flacco, the bear, is flying through the air and almost lands in the chocolate nachos, which would have been a catastrophe. Phew! Rocco leaps into the air, snatches the bear, but knocks over the entire pot of gazpacho and spills a bag of mini marshmallows. But he saved the chocolate nachos, so we just cleaned the mess up and laughed so hard till we cried. And then the tears in Renee's eyes just stopped. So we decided it was finally time to try these chocolate nachos. We approached it like new chocolate apostles. It was the true snack gospel. We each took a bite and instantly felt colossal. Chocolate nachos made even the impossible Rocco act less hostile. He slid over ever so slyly to me and Paco and asked was it possible for he, Renee, and Flacco to have chocolate nachos to go. And we said heck no. But before we had a chance to see the time when the clock, Rocco snatches the entire bowl and runs out the front door. And I would like to tell you more about the story of the chocolate nachos, but for now, that's all I got, yo. Having fun? If you're having fun, say yeah. I love you, Brockton. We're here. Boy. So, in this pandemic time, somebody's calling me, and I'm going to say no. In this time, we have experienced, insanely enough, an increase in, or at least an increased exposure of, social injustice, moments when black lives don't matter, when even Asian lives don't matter, more crime, more violence against each other, it seems, than pre-pandemic. And it may be because we're all in the house now and we're all able to focus on it a little more, it got highlighted, but really, with the huge highlight of George Floyd in particular, and others even since, Ahmaud Arbery, I could go so many names, Breonna Taylor, say her name, it occurred to me that some of the pieces that I had written in my own youth, writing myself through survival as a young black male in America, were still valid today. I've got a feeling everything gonna be alright. Yeah, I've got a feeling everything gonna be alright. I've got a feeling everything gonna be alright. Be alright, be alright, be alright. Sometimes it's like my whole lifeline has been the punchline of a joke that I didn't get. And the whole world is laughing, pointing, waiting for me to fail, but though I might pale in comparison to my environment, I've got ink inside my veins. And I will blend in until my time comes. I will wait here until my time comes. I stroke my brain's frontal lobe until the rhymes come, and I will wait here until revolution comes like war drums to numb this pain. But my revolution will not begin, and my chains remain. My chains remain like the concrete beneath the bloodstains. I've been trained to miss the freedom train. Trained to strain for it has been mine from the beginning, and I'm beginning to understand as I stand here in welfare lines, waiting for stale cheese and swine. I'm composed opposing lines. Trying to remind my brother who stays trapped behind vertical lines for crossing the imaginary line between legal and illegal. I'm trying to remind my people, hoping that as he reads my lines while getting his cornrows properly aligned or lining up for inspections, the most average Americans thought were behind blacks, he will find that, as a matter of fact, the revolution is here. As they climb the splintered stair up out of this well, I'm thinking, hell must be a state of mind. The shortest distance has been a straight line, but I've been zigzagging all this time, run amok, bamboozled in the Rubik's Cube is them television saturated vision, missing the greater part of my intellect, needing respect but never getting it. You see, I'm like that penny with the hole in it, but I put a string up in that hole and tie my soul in it and hold on to it. So here's a penny for your thoughts, but give me back my change. I'm trying to change all these straight lines into curved ones as I keep on re-evolving like the earth around the sun, and my suns will shine through all this darkness, even if I have to poke my soul in the pursuit. Don't shoot! Don't shoot! I'm gonna look at my wallet to show you my identity. There's no room to exist inside of a small black box, and I forgot before I left the house this morning I had my blackness cocked, so I got shot, felt lead in my back, hot like the coals grew was quickly run across, but boss, I swear, we only threw 3 men into the fire. You idiots. Then why are there now 4 in there, singing and shouting, throwing their hands in the air like they just don't care about death? But breath is not the only weapon I have to give, and so I bleed ink in the fields, lined like cornrows, testifying to the silent screens, leaving stains in bold headlines and front pages. This revolution will not be covered by Dateline. This is me on the front line saying to hell at one time. I'll drop no dimes on your crime watch hotlines. I'm pedal to the metal, revving to the red line, trying to finish my lines, and time tries to redefine the crimes history has done to me, and suddenly it comes to me like drums overcoming me, numbing me, beating me over the head. I am not dead! And my lifeline is the bass line behind the drums of my heartbeat. My lifeline is the bass line behind the drums of my heartbeat. So, would you mind volunteering for something? This cube here, if you could just take it, and don't solve it, just mess it up. Mess it up really, really good. If you wouldn't mind, keep me honest here. This is my last piece, but I want to just explain a little something about it that I think is really cool. I travel with my group Shakespeare to Hip Hop to schools K through college, all around the New England area. We've really been doing a lot of stuff further out around the country, even like Michigan. You know, getting into more doing a national thing, but when I performed this particular piece, I try to encourage young people, you know, all people, but young people in particular at the schools, and I'm looking at them like they're the future, you know? And I imagine if I had learned how to solve the Rubik's Cube as a young person, something that seemed impossible till 30, you know? If I had been able to achieve that thing that I thought was impossible at a young age, then nothing would be impossible. And I'd be so much further gone. People are like, oh, Marlon, you're doing all these cool things. And, oh, man, if I'd only been able to do some impossible things when I was young. And so I really wanted to learn how to solve the cube. A friend of mine, you know, tried to show me, and I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't get one layer. And one day I happened to be on a plane with a bunch of individuals, these 2 guys. And, you know, they were passing it back and forth, doing it in a minute. So something impossible being done in a timing, I'm like, what? And so they walked me through the other 2 steps. Not 2 steps, but the other 2 layers. And so I learned it. I thought, okay, I'm gonna go home and buy one, you know, and practice. And so I went home and I was like, you know, I was really into it all the time, just twirling around. And one night I was practicing for a poetry slam, this new poem I had written about time. And I was practicing and fiddling with the cube and solving, and the friend who was there with me says, are you doing a poem and solving a Rubik's Cube? And I was like, yeah, kind of. And she's like, that's so cool. And so I decided to include it, and it's been an inspirational thing. And I'm not gonna talk too much because, you know, there's times when it doesn't go right, you know? We have to be, thank you. You're timing yourself doing a poem while doing a cube, and as a poet, you're like Forget the gimmick, forget the thing, just listen to the poem. So what I hope you'll do while I perform this piece and hopefully get the cube and the poem done in the same time, is that you'll listen to the poem. Okay? So everybody say yeah? All right, so I'm gonna need another burst of energy in a second, okay? This is not an easy thing to do. It is nerve-wracking to be outside, people looking at you while you're trying to do something that seems impossible, right? So I'm going to do my best, and you're gonna do your best by giving me a little energy. When I say 1, 2, 3, you're gonna say yeah. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. It seems like I'm always wasting time, buying time, spending time or trying to borrow some time. But these days, time is money. Money is time. Now, money doesn't grow on trees, but it is the root of all evil. People who have a lot of money seem to have all the time in the world, don't they? But money isn't everything. Time is of the essence. And essentially, in order to get more time, I gotta have lots of money. But in order to get more money, I gotta spend time. So time is the most valuable currency. I would like to share time, but I haven't any spare time, not even time enough to make change or change the world or change my mind. Time is running out. There's never enough time. Getting a college degree takes too much time and costs too much money, so kids do crimes and end up locked up serving time for stealing money. Doing hard time, but outside the prison gates, hunger eats away at the walls of a child's stomach. Daddy worked overtime this week, but the company accountant took some well-deserved time off to getting some tea time and time with the kids. You'll get your check in due time. Meanwhile, I'm standing in the lunch line trying to find a moment to write a rhyme, and I find I have no time for writing lines. I'm sneaking off to the men's room to steal a few minutes of my boss's time, realizing I'll probably never have enough time because when I signed the dotted line, I signed away all my free. So now my time exists before 9 and after 5, and some nights I was there till way past 9, so I never had time to spend with my friends. And though I was chasing the Benjamins, somehow I never had any ends to spend when we finally did carve out a few minutes from our busy days. And then we would simply coalesce around a common thread and coexist inside the haze, whiling away the minutes, discussing the disgusting parts of our dismal existences, punching in, punching out, serving time. Prisoners trapped inside the hourglass, choking on the sandstorm of possibilities. Wish we could all go back in time and remind ourselves to take the time to appreciate the gift of time. And right now, after all the timeouts, the time on stage, the studio time, the time and time again, bad timing, the absent-minded time spent wondering, will I get my big break this time? Or should I just throw in the towel and resign and get back on my grind, chalk it all up to wasted time and try to make up for lost time? Just yesterday, y'all, I looked up in the sky and I saw a sign. It was a blimp proclaiming the world is mine. And I thought, well, it's about time. And that's my time. Give yourselves a hand. Come on, give yourselves a hand. Brockton, I love you very much. Brockton Library, I love you. Thank you, Philosaurus. Thank you guys for really inviting me out to do the thing, and I appreciate you guys. Enjoy your day. Much love.
What an afternoon. So we got some people to thank. Thomas and Athena from Brockton Cable Access for filming this. It's going to be on Brockton Cable Access and on YouTube also. Come on, our host, Allie Brioso. Yep, there she is. Director.
He's the guy, Philip.
Director Paul Engel, representing the Brockton Library, who gave us this space to say our poetry. Our youth, our adolescent, and our maturity, all represented here today. We had our student features, Lola Bennett, Masu Fofana, and our main feature, who is celebrating his wedding anniversary today with us. I'm sure his wife is really happy about that. Marlon Carey. But the people I really want to recognize is you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. Thank you for showing your enthusiasm, Brockton. We are special. We are back, and we are going into the future. We will see you next month, June 26th, with 2 new features. We have Christina Liu and Jessica Niang from Brockton High. She will be our student feature. So I can't wait till next month comes, and have a good one, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Hey, this has been Everyone Has a Voice. We just got back from the first event. Was it May 22nd?
Yes.
No, May 22nd, 2021. And how about that? What a feature. This is Marlon Carey right here. My name is Jason Wright. I have a podcast called The Oddball Show, and I also have a foundation called the Oddball Foundation, 501c3, for mental health advocacy, creative art. So check it out. So Marlon,
Yes.
the Rubik's Cube. He ended the poem with a Rubik's Cube. Tell me about that. Tell me about how you did that.
I learned the Rubik's Cube, the final couple of layers from these 2 gentlemen on an airplane. There was a trip to LA that I was supposed to go on, and I really, I barely made the flight. It was one of the most, to me, the most amazing. I really wanted to go to LA. A friend of mine had got me a ticket, and then I was waiting around for an inspection for my apartment, and they never came, so I just took pictures of the apartment, gave it to the office, and just went to the airport.
Yeah.
Get to the airport, I'm like, half hour to go. This is like, nobody gets on the plane with a half hour to go.
No, man, it takes a little while to get on the plane.
You need at least
You got to check in.
an
you gotta
hour,
go
an hour and a half.
through the security, everything. It's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable.
So with a half hour to go,
process.
usually you just it's a wrap. You don't do it.
Yeah.
I was so determined to go, and then so focused on this has to happen. I called while I'm.
You called?
Because here I am driving the car. I had to park the car, so I parked the car, and then I go, wait a minute, parking lot's here. Airport terminal's way over there. Again, 25 minutes, 20 minutes to go at this point.
All right.
And I'm dragging my suitcase, and I'm going along and I'm calling. So I'm dragging and I'm calling, and I call ahead and they go, hey there, this is 7 from Hollywood to Marlon Carey's on his way to LA. He has to make it.
What? Why does the guy have a British accent?
Because it's people.
Were you in London?
No, I
Was
don't
I
know.
not paying attention?
My thought was that
You said you
the
had
Hollywood director sounds important, and the British people sound important.
So wait. You did an English accent.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's
So I
great.
call the airport, use this British accent, say that Marlon Carey must be on the plane, no matter what. It's unacceptable. He has to make it. And I hung up. And
Okay.
whoever on the other end must have really taken it seriously because I get there. So
This is a funny story.
I never really tell the story, so I'll share it with you.
Oh,
you
go
know?
ahead. Yeah, let's hear it. Let's just hear it.
I'm dragging it back. I made this crazy phone call and put this intent forward, and I still got 15 minutes to go to get on a plane
To fly.
Man, and I just, the confidence, the desire to do it, the will, whatever it was, I pushed forward. And as I'm getting near, I'm halfway there, and the car pulls up, and this lady goes, do you need a ride to get to the... I said,
Wow.
okay, yes.
Happenstance.
And she said, and I got in the car, and she said, hey, this happened to me before, and someone gave me a ride. I'm just paying it back. And I said, I'll pay it forward for sure. And I give her, a high five, whatever it is. Thank you so much. And I go and I'm running. Now I'm 10 minutes to get on a plane. I haven't checked in yet. It's ridiculous. You should go home right now.
Yeah.
Man, I get in there. And I
Reschedule.
I go to the...
Reschedule. It's not happening.
I go and I said, I'm Marlon Carey. He goes, we were expecting you. Come with us.
Oh.
So I take my ticket and they run it through and we're going down to the airport and I'm a black guy, so they have to take me aside and check me out. So I'm like, yeah, I'm going to LA, fine. But they did their due diligence and I'm running through, and someone's with me, someone's actually escorting me to the plane because Marlon Carey has to be there. It's unacceptable if he doesn't make it.
That's the British accent. It really did it. What if it was a different accent?
Yeah.
What if it was a different accent? It might not done over
The
so
British
well.
accent set it off.
What if it was a Boston accent? Yeah, I'm
I'm in the middle of an interview.
Yeah, hi there.
I love you. It's my daughter.
You know,
So,
wait,
anyway.
hold on. So Marlon is also a family man. So, let's talk about Let's talk about real quick. Let's get back to that. Let's get back
You're
to
gonna
the family
splice
man
this
thing.
together.
We're gonna splice together. We're gonna talk about the family man thing in a minute, but we gotta finish the Rubik's cube.
Yes. So, okay, real quick. I get to the door, and I've never had this happen before. It's one time it ever happened in my life. I get to the door, they say, "You're Marlon Carey?" Oh, I'm so glad. They push the code, and the door goes, and then that gigantic door, it opens up.
The gigantic door to go into the...
Yes!
Oh, wow.
Oh, man, it was so amazing to me that the determination and effort I put forward got me on this plane. So I'm like, oh, goodness. And I'm sitting, next to these two gentlemen, and, find out later on that they work for Porsche. And they're like, oh, pretty cool job. I'm sitting with these cool guys, and we're all hanging out. And then they start playing with the cube, and they're doing it back and forth, and they're getting it in a minute, and it just impresses me so much. And they're like, please show me. And then they walk me through the basics, which I memorize. At that point, I didn't write it down. I just put it here, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get a cube, and I'm going to figure this out.
All right.
So there are algorithms, there's ways to do it. There's 54 quintillion ways to solve this thing.
54 quintillion.
Quintillion.
That's a lot.
It's more than a billion.
That's
more than
1, 2, 3 quintillion. That's a lot. So all right. So the listeners of this show, or the viewers of the show, can you walk through the first 3 steps of the Rubik's cube, or can you show me a little bit how to do it?
Yeah, I could do that.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
All right. What's the first step here?
The first step we're talking about, and this is just one of the ways, right?
Yep.
Some people do it this way. I'll say it this way. We're gonna start off with building our first layer. Okay.
All right, building the first layer.
So you know that puzzle that you used to have with the numbers, where you slide the thing and you get it in order. You know that little puzzle when you were a kid?
Possibly.
Let the little squares shift around, 1 to 10. It's a little like that, but on an axis.
All right,
circle. Anyway, so we do that. We're gonna bring things up. So we got 3 whites here. Let's just build the white side. Okay?
All right, let's do it.
And the key is, don't get caught up with just that. The sides matter. So this blue means that there's some white and blue here, the same way. So we'll just start off with bringing things up. Okay. So we've got these 2 were easily found. Here they are. Okay. So now we've got the blues, and this other one here obviously belongs here. So we're gonna go off, get rid of it, and bring it back. Now we got all 3, okay? And as a bonus, we got the orange side too. So we're building the top, but we're also paying attention to the sides. So here we are, we got that. Now we know that this white and green is gonna go here because that's green, we're gonna go here, boom. Oh, I've lost that, boom, boom, boom. Okay, so now we're here. There's one more that needs to be here.
Yeah.
And it needs to find its home. And you need to find its home. We're gonna line them up, we're gonna orient, put it here. And now we got the first layer.
Hey, there we go.
First layer's done. We have to line up, find our middles here. The middles don't change. So if this is white, the other side's yellow. And if this is green, the other side's blue, red, other side's orange. So you learn that there are rules. There are rules to the cube, and you can't do one thing to the other thing. So let's go.
So there's rules to the cube.
Rules to the cube. We find a T, we do a T, and there's an algorithm for a T. It's something like, I don't remember these things, how to say them anymore. I just sort of do them.
So if you want to see a Rubik's cube, where do you go to see the Rubik's cube? You did a TEDx talk that we talked.
You can go check it out on YouTube.
See that?
Search Marlon Carey, and you'll find it. It's probably the first thing that shows up under my name.
Yeah.
So pretty much what I'm doing now is the algorithm to solve the center layer, right?
Yeah.
So I can do it with my eyes closed at this point because it just becomes memory.
That's
so
nuts.
Now we're talking about 2 layers, okay? You got the 2 layers, you turn it upside down, and then there's another series of things. So it's here. So wait.
How are you doing this?
You just do. And so if you do the formula right, you don't lose any at the bottom. So you kind of have to do.
So he's already got three sides done. Enamored. I'm amazed by this. I'm mystified. I can't do this myself.
And so you got to find the fish.
I know, right?
We're looking for a fish. Okay. You keep doing the same formula. This is a different.
We're looking for a fish. What does that mean exactly? We're looking for a fish. That's a Rubik's cube expression.
This right here.
Quintillion expression.
This right here is a fish. If you see it.
Oh, okay.
That's a fish.
He's looking for a fish. That's actually Rubik's Cube expression for, one of the quintillion rules of a Rubik's Cube.
You'll get
that
shaped
up.
like that. Anyway, so we're close. We're close. Orient. Okay.
Now,
There's a W.
Now,
The
can-
fish will come after
can you
this.
do a little bit of a poem while you're doing this?
I'll do my shortest poem.
All right, he's gonna do a little poem while he's doing
My
this.
shortest-
Multitasking.
My shortest poem ever.
All right.
It's called X. E-X.
X.
Fish.
Yes, there's a fish. There's a fish.
I don't want anything to do with anything that has anything to do with you. Thank you.
Is that the poem? I don't know what just happened.
Uh,
That was a poem.
okay. We gotta solve this thing. It's
So-
nerve-wracking.
So if you like Marlon Carey, you got to go check out his YouTube. He did some interviews on a couple podcasts. Did you just do it?
Kind of. See, what happens is you could think you're done here, but there's like the sides are not done. So there's still more work, right?
Yeah.
So then there's this one here, and there's probably another fish at the end of it. There's a fish, right? The fish really matters a lot.
Fish.
You go from fish to actual solve. And now you think you're done. Again, you think you're done, but you're not done.
That's where I would stop. I'd be like, I'm
You'd
done.
be like, oh, I'm good. But
done.
essentially, then there's a whole other thing. It looks like you're messing it up. It looks like you're screwing the whole thing up. Okay? And you do it again, and you move it. So here we go. Ready? All right. Boom. And you do the last two.
Oh man, I'm gonna screw it up.
Do the last two. Just turn this twice.
All right. Yeah.
One.
Ah!
Hey!
Hey! I did that. Edit it all out.
But they walk me through this thing. I get it done, and then I come back home and I practice a whole lot. And I'm practicing so much one day that I actually travel on the bus.
So wait, this is a flight to Los Angeles. So this is a long flight because you're messing around with a Rubik's Cube.
It yeah, what, a couple hours? I don't know how long it was.
So it took you 2 hours to learn the Rubik's Cube.
To finally get it, yeah. And so I practiced so hard, I
Kids, 2 hours.
time spent
Nail the
well.
Rubik's Cube.
Movie, Rubik's Cube.
Netflix, Rubik's
Rubik's
Cube.
Cube.
Netflix and Rubik's Cube. I believe that's
You
the
can do it
same.
together.
Anyway.
I missed my stop. I got the bus all the way one area, came back, and I had sort of was working on it so intently. So it really is practice. It really is an intention to learn something. You know, I've put the same kind of effort into learning how to paint. You know, learning how to. The guitar is hard. You play guitar?
I do play
I figured
guitar.
you did.
You do play guitar.
thought you'd be a guitar
Yeah,
player.
I play guitar. Yeah.
It's been a thing that I'm learning. I have it at home. I got the chord buddy.
Yeah. Oh, you got the chord buddy.
It's cheating.
okay.
I know it's cheating.
No. Go to AC Guitar or Ultimate Guitar tab. You get all the guitar stuff. You know, you'll be knocking on Evan's door and
It'll enhance the performance. I brought my drum. I didn't play the drum today.
Oh yeah.
But certainly guitar is going to help me get to another level. You have questions? I'm sorry.
Let's just talk about poetry for you. What is the craft of what's the craft of like slam for you? What is the craft like? I guess let's just start there.
Well, it's two things, right?
What is it like to start writing poetry, and what's it like to be good at it enough to start performing it? I can tell you my story, which is not much. It is a story. I'd like to hear your story.
Oh, okay. You can tell me.
I'll tell you. All right. So I used to write poetry on notebooks in class, and I think I only performed it once at a talent show where I got a good ovation, which was nice. And then after that, I suffered with not much of a poetry community. But what was it like for you? Did you immediately start writing, get into a poetry community? It wasn't until a lot longer for me.
No, I mean, I was about 8 years old, and my son over there is 8 years old. Pretty interesting. At 8, you know, they had Mother's Day poems, right? Your own Mother's Day poem, and
Yeah.
you know, some variation of roses are red, violets are blue, and you know, I wrote a poem for my mother, and I made a little card, and she really loved it. Like, loved it so much, she put it in her desk at work, and everything. People would comment on it. She was a bank teller, so she saw a lot of people. And so my poem got a lot of eyes, you know? And so her coming home and telling me about that made me excited, and I wrote more. And then I would write things about my friends and things, and, you know, man, I remember, so I lost a lot of poetry one time.
Oh, you did?
You might not have ever heard of me if I'd given up. This is really important. Don't ever give up.
Don't ever give up.
So I had a folder full of all my work. This is ninth grade. So from 8 years old to ninth grade, all the little scribbles, scrabbles, and you know, back in my day, it was word processing and typing. So you didn't really put all your stuff into the computer. It wasn't just the normal way. So I have a lot of things that were only existing on hard copy, backs of receipts.
Oh, really?
Backs of receipts. Back of a church program. Back of the
I
test.
I wrote on the back of a napkin once.
Back of napkins, paper bags. Like I had all of these things inside of a folder. Near the end of the school year, you know that National Library Poetry Contest that they have, that all poets go, oh my God, I want to be part of that.
No.
There's a contest that goes on
All right.
that everybody wants to get into, and it's like semi-scam. Because you could pay to have your poem.
No, it was a scam. Poetry.com. You
Okay,
get
so,
the
okay.
book. You get
See?
the book. You get the book. You get the book, and it's like anyone can get the book. Like you pay like $200, you get your name in a book, and that's like Poetry.com. Oh wait, hold on. You know what? That's old school. That's AOL.com. I don't even know if Poetry.com exists anymore.
But it's still there. The only reason why I say it's semi-scam is because I stayed with a couple in Chicago once, and I met a lady who worked for it.
Oh yeah.
So she said, no, it's a poetry guide, but certainly yes, a lot of people can pay to be in the book. So anyway,
pay to be in the book.
I was getting ready to be in that book. I didn't. This is pre-knowledge of that's not how you should get published. So I go and I actually have all my folders. I bring them to school to share with my friends. Now, mind you, this is near the end of the school year. And I shared with my friends, and this one, that one, that. I'm laughing at the suggestions. I'm ready to go. I leave the folder in my locker at school. My mother pulls a surprise trip to New York at the time to visit some family. So I was like thinking about my poetry that I left in this locker. You know, I come back and the school's already over. It's like 2 days, 3 days past school, and the janitor is there. He's like, yeah, we took all that stuff that was in the lockers and incinerated it.
No, really.
So I always hoped that like he was lying and somebody took it and kept it and it's out there in the world. But what he said to me was, everything in those lockers, we take them out and incinerate them. So all of my poetry, all of my poetry.
Why they throw it in the trash? They don't incinerate it.
Fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth grade, ninth grade, all gone.
Yeah.
And I thought I would never ever write poetry again. And so this is way before I ever performed one live. This is just me writing it down, thinking I might want to be a poet one day. And it was devastating, the loss.
Yeah.
I really, really want to get, I wanted to figure out what to do. So anyway, I kept writing. And I got so many notebooks now, so many things I've done, books I've published. Now that it's laughable to some degree, but I want to get some of that old stuff back. I wish somebody would show up with it.
Yep.
Imagine
they show up in the locker. Well, I just want you to know that we found this. We were searching years and years to find the Marlon Carey, and there it is.
The early archives. There's probably crappy stuff because I was a kid. But
yeah.
I just remember some of it was.
My first poem was called Thanksgiving, and it was one of those acrostic where you write I saw it on a commercial. I was like, T is for thankful, H is for home,
Yes,
A is for Andrew. I was just naming my sister. So I went through the whole thing, and that was one of my first poems. And my brother goes, you saw that on a TV show, didn't you?
Yeah, right. So fast forward, around 15 years old, I got involved with Dim Street Voices, which is a.
Now where's that?
It's in Dorchester. It's a theater group down there, and I, got involved with them at 15 because a friend of mine suggested I would get involved with this poetry group, and they took my poems and they would do them and use them, and they would like, hey Marlon, you should perform something. I was like, no, I'm super shy. Then I was in a play at the Strand that had my poems in it, and I was playing a lead character.
In the Strand?
This is like, I was 16.
Oh, wow. So
16, 17, getting ready to go, off to college in a couple of years, but still, key time in my life. And I remember being on stage, getting my poetry kind of, not really doing it, feeling shy, and the director like, do it again. And this particular director, James Vesh, I love James. Hey, James.
Hey, James.
He basically made me perform it. He said, do it the way you wrote it, the way you hear it in your head. And when I finally got it right, he goes, yeah, now get off my stage. And I never forgot that. I stayed with it because it's really important to remember why you wrote something and how you wrote it and who you're trying to speak to.
This is a beautiful moment right here. Right here. Now, this has been a real joy to have you here today. Can you give some advice to people who either want to be a poet or just like some nice, youthful advice for people? What's the advice for the kids of tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Right now,
Especially
like during like COVID and everything and all that stuff.
Exactly, because people haven't had a chance to get to poetry venues, to do things
Right.
in a space where a lot of people haven't had a chance to get out to do things in a poetry venue, right? At a local reading, or even able to do something at your school, like an organized slam. So the people who are going to be the poets of next year and the year after haven't had those poetic watering holes to go and get sustenance, to go and share, to get validation. So I would say start by sharing to one person. Have a friend or a relative that you can say, hey, guess what? I wrote a new thing. And that person's going to be your first audience. And ideally, this person's going to help you get a larger group of people together. Start your own reading. Find a way to be able to share, because that's the key. You don't write it for yourself only. My professor at college said, the minute you write it down, it betrays the intent to share, even if you don't want to share it while you're still alive. But certainly find a community and share. Keep doing it. There are online communities to share with. Certainly keep writing. Don't ever quit. Don't ever, 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 ever quit. Ever. It's key. And read. Reading is the way this works. If you are going to write poetry, you should read some stuff. Poetry, fiction, anything.
It doesn't have to be poetry either. Just read. Just read in general.
Consume words to digest them, to put the poetry out. You can't build something out of nothing. So you got to put words in to get the words out, and listen. And really observe people. Observe patterns and behaviors, and then work that. It's breathing. Poetry for me is breathing. It's you take in information, you put some words back out, and you take in more stuff after you've read it, and then you share. So I'm all about what happens with the breathing of poetry.
All right, last question. I know you're really involved with Shakespeare and that thing. Tell me a little bit about Shakespeare and why Shakespeare means so much to you.
I will. So, really quickly, ShakespeareToHipHop.com is the site for more information about Shakespeare to hip hop. I work with my partner Reggie Gibson, who is
Reggie Gibson, huh? He's a legend.
Phenomenal poet,
legend.
amazing,
nice guy too.
Just humanitarian, a good person, and a great friend. I mean, he and I just really connected. In my poetry, when I got out of college and I got the scene, around the same time Reggie moved into this area from Chicago, and we really became fast friends, and he's really been a great inspiration and help along the way. So we formed this group called Shakespeare to Hip Hop. It was about the span of...
Another one.
I will tell you about this one later. Stop it. It's the span from the classical to the modern, and we used to do our own materials and some from the canon, and then along the way people would say, do you turn Shakespeare into hip hop? And we were like, I guess. And so we got a commission from the Boston Public Library. Boston Public Library, BPL down there in Copley, the main branch. They had us out a few years ago. They brought us out for the 400th anniversary of Shakespeare's passing, Shakespeare Unauthorized. They wanted us to create some programming for teens into adults. And so we created this program we called the Shakespeare Time Traveling Speakeasy. And so it is a speakeasy that travels through time, Shakespeare's biographical information, some poetry, but it really is about introducing kids to it. So for me, I am the kid that needed this when I was younger, because though I grew up with the Bible, so the thee and the thou and the thus made sense to me, it was still, sort of beyond, right? It's language that is beyond the average, and so you felt like, I don't really want to be an expert at this. I was really afraid to take on this role. I was like, Reggie, you want to do this, Only it is still a really high demand product. People want to come up and get the kids acclimated. So I think Shakespeare is one of the greatest writers of all time. His words are right there, still 400 plus years later, very valid. You know, people aren't writing like that anymore. Like, it's exquisite language, right?
Oh, yes.
And so I go back and forth because when you do this work, people consider you an expert.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
You know,
The bard.
You're
The bard's
some
bard.
kind of bard. You're some kind of expert
Right.
because you have dealt with the bard's words, and you can speak it. You can translate it. You can write a poem about it. It means you digested it. And so I do respect and take that honor seriously. But I don't ever claim to be a Shakespeare expert because we've been at shows where Shakespeare professors have come forth and said, well, you know, and we've had conversations with them because we did our due diligence. Because Reggie made sure that we did what we needed to do for the people who were classically trained and knowledgeable and the people who don't know anything about Shakespeare. So I think what Shakespeare to Hip Hop does is it really helps kids understand and love language. And we're going to...
So, Shakespeare to hiphop.com. So it helps you understand language. It helps you understand Shakespeare. Helps you. It's a performance thing.
It's performance and workshops. We do workshops as well, but a lot of it is really the Shakespeare time traveling speakeasy. We perform 55 minutes of songs with a band that really give you an introduction to Shakespeare or a grounding if you've already started it. And it's a fabulous project. I'm glad to be part of it.
Shakespeare.com, Marlon Carey. Everyone has a voice. It's been a great event. Marlon, thank you so much, man.
Thank you so
what
much for
a
having me.
pleasure. This is Jason Wright from Oddball Magazine, the Oddball Foundation. Consider donating 501c3 for mental health, creative advocacy. And we'll see you next time. Be well.
We should fist bump though. COVID, man.
COVID. There you go.
No, thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you so much.
Hi, this is Allie, a co-host to Everyone Has a Voice, the youth segment. And right now, we've had a great Springing On Forward 2021 first series. And Ms. Fofana, a beautiful young lady from the city of Brockton, aspired future author, is going to be interviewed briefly, but most she's going to take this opportunity because she is a upcoming graduate of this year, 2021, Brockton Public High School, and going into the Marines. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and then on Ms. Fofana, I love your last name, is definitely imprinted, not just by your name, but by your beautiful words. And I wanted to ask you the most first important question is, when did you first realize you wanted to be a writer, a poet, when that awakening happened?
I think not specifically like a poet, but more so a writer in general. I was pretty young, I think it was in 3rd grade, and I had to it was creative writing, and I had to write this text about anything. It was just write a story. And I didn't know what to write, but in the end I just talked about this crocodile that could talk like humans, and I told the story. And not that the story was so good that it had an amazing grade, no, like it was okay, but my classmates were so infatuated with it. They thought it was so fun, and they couldn't think why I would make a crocodile talk and have a human life and all that. And so I felt like with that story I touched people that I wasn't even talking to in class. When they heard the story, they started laughing, and they kind of got to know part of my personality.
Yes,
and I felt like I wanted to reproduce that feeling more. I wanted to write more stories.
You like the vibe,
yes,
right?
I
Because
really like
I know you appear to be shy. You appear to be humbly and quiet, but you have such a great word with inspired expressions. And I think that is a root of your motivation, because you remember that momentum, that moment where you felt that. How do you feel from your experience with your family at home? I know you have a diverse cultural background. You have beautiful languages you share in your speaking and writing. Where does your family come into play in the support for you in this?
I think they're like more so source of inspiration, because I have my older sister who writes as well. But just knowing that, like, the stories that I've lived with them, and just knowing that they appreciate what I write and they love it, regardless of what's the content, but more so like me expressing myself, they love hearing that. It just pushes me to write more, because it kind of like we push each other. They like what I write, and I like that they like what I write, so I keep writing.
Yeah, so it feels like a lot of love is being shared, and that's definitely another tool that motivates and inspires poetry. Has your ideas of poetry changed since you began writing? Now that you're going to be a graduate, you're so empowered, you're going to the Marines. Has your poetry or writings changed in those few years of maturity from preteen, young teen to evolved teen?
Yeah, I think it hasn't changed, but it has evolved. Because I remember what I used to write was more so about other people's experiences or just cute stuff that I really appreciated. But as I grew up, I felt like whatever I wanted to say to people, I could actually be vocal about it through poetry. I shouldn't just think, oh, this is not fair, and stop
Right.
there. Through poetry, I could actually say, this is not fair, this is why, and how does it make me feel, and how, does it make other people feel?
Yes.
And through that, I feel like poetry has allowed me to not only be mature, but also be more responsible of my own thinking, because now I don't keep it to myself, but I'm more open about it.
Yes, yes. And then, this year we have a vice president, a woman of color, Kamala Harris. And you yourself, to have made it to the senior year as a young person, individual, and let alone woman of color, and with all the poetry, life experiences, and from Ghanaian and American and all the diverse cultures that you beautifully shared with us, we thank you very much. Philip and myself in the poetry community, you have evolved, you've grown, and I'm glad you were healthy and made it through the pandemic. If you could pass along one piece of advice to young aspiring writers, as Angelique, who shared about a cat today, what would it be? What would you say to the youth that are growing right behind you?
I think if I could share a piece of advice to them as just young writers in general, they shouldn't feel shy to write about anything because everything matters. Even if it's just you observing something, I feel like it matters and someone would like to hear it. You might not see that person, but just because you liked it and you want to write about it, just do so. So write for yourself, but sometimes think about who might like this poem as well and just write.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Ms. Ufafana. It's been a true pleasure. I thank you for joining us through this time and season. Congratulations on your graduation. Be empowered and keep keeping it on. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is an interview segment with Ms. Ufafana of Everyone Has a Voice. Moving on forward with great ventures and an inspired author. Thank you very much. Really. This is Everyone Has a Voice, a Brockton Public Library poetry series, and I'm here to interview. My name is Ali Brioso. I'm here to interview Lola Bennett. She was one of our youth features today. Lola is one of our youths in the community city of Brockton and is of the Southeastern Regional Vocational High School. I'm going to ask her a few questions. So Lola, welcome. It's such a pleasure seeing you and your mother. And your mother, I was like La Flor, I was like a beautiful flower as your mom's name with yourself. So I'm curious to know, not just because your mom has shared interest in poetry, but when did you first realize you yourself, Lola, as a growing young lady, a youth, wanted to express yourself in poetry?
It started more at the Boys and Girls Club of Brockton, BGC. And we had the staff, Lisa, and she would come in and we had a girls group and she would just say we had a box and we can put in whatever we wanted, whether it was like poetry, something you wanted to share but stay anonymous. And I started writing poetry and, classical, everything has to rhyme. And I started writing this poem called, because it was a girls group, I think it was either women are like paper or girls are like paper. And I remember Phil came and he did a poetry segment with the club, and I just took a chance and showed him my work, and he said it was very interesting and he really liked it and invited me to be a student feature. And that's really where it all started. I unfortunately lost my phone before I could come to my student feature, and it was gone, but I'm still trying to revamp it, rework it, make it the best that it can before I want to reshare it again.
That's very nice. And Lola, your parents always come. Your father, your mother, your stepfather, your siblings, and in the city of Brockton, we're very diverse. You see that. And you are one of our great organizations in the community, which is the Boys and Girls Club. You also come from a different dynamic of family, you know, where you live with your mom, you share with your dad. So there's pretty, and Brockton has biracial cultures. How does that come into play where you feel like your voice through poetry or with your peers, you're very motivational and inspiring. How does that come into play in your writings?
It comes into play a lot because I mostly started writing once I got here, like once I moved to Brockton from Boston in around 5th grade, transitioning from 4th to 5th, and I just like, my poem today, How Am I Supposed to? I really wrote it a lot about like how not only Brockton in general like kind of made me feel, but like just in life, you know, like being here, being a mixed person is just like, it's like, oh yeah, I'm white, but you don't see that I'm Hispanic. You mostly see that I'm white. And so just like writing it really like opened me up more to like, oh, like these are my struggles. Like especially there's a lot going on with Black Lives Matter and everything, like with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, but I feel like there's a lot of small issues, especially that we can also deal with, especially in Brockton.
Especially in Brockton, that is correct, Lola.
So it really affects my writing, just like not only being here, but being here and being different. Everybody is usually like, they're more dependent on like, oh, I've been here since kindergarten and I know this person and I know that person, and kind of just showing up and not being like everybody else, just kind of like singles you out, makes you feel alone. But just having like finally being able to make friends and writing poetry and just writing in general or anything creative just kind of like helps me feel myself.
And you're right, Lola, and that's very inspiring because I remember myself as attending Boys and Girls Club in my early years. Boys and Girls Club's been around in general for a very long time. And a lot of times you find peers there, but now you have social media. And then you're in a whole new community, you know, and you have found yourself. What is the most surprising thing you learned about yourself in the midst of writing your poetry? Like, what did you find that you have as a young lady in yourself that you never knew you had before?
I found that I have a lot of power in my words. Since a young age, I've been always like considered as mature for my age, you know, a high reading level, you can draw a good picture, but, and like you have a very good choice of words. But I just, like, I realize like a lot of the power I can put behind them. Like I find words that there might be simplicity to them, and then I just basically upgrade them with whatever I can find. Like, and I realized that words don't necessarily have to rhyme. They don't have to, like I said in my take, that you can just say whatever you want and somehow bring it back to like the theme of your poem. The theme, my poem, Secret Roses, could be about roses, but it was also about myself.
Exactly, that's very well put. So we're going to close on with the last question, and yes, we have enjoyed this beautiful air, and even you can write a poem about this song, right? So Lola, let me ask you something. If you could pass along one piece of advice for your writers, and I would think about in that aspect for the youth, what would it be? What inspiration do you have to share as an advice to other youths?
For the youths, just start where you can. It's never too late to start, it's never too early. There was a younger girl here, I think her name was Angelina. And
yes, Angeline, yes.
She wrote a poem about her cat.
Yes.
I feel like you can write a poem about anything.
Yes, exactly.
You can write, like, it doesn't have to be some big thing where you're looking for yourself. It could be about summer days. It could, like other people wrote, it could be about your mental health. It could be about your favorite pair of shoes or jeans. It doesn't have to be something so important where it has to make a great impact, and it has to be like, or it doesn't have to be about Black Lives Matter or anything that is like big in society today. It could be about, oh, I found out I need to wear glasses, and this is how that makes me feel. Just figure out what makes you feel like you, and
that's where you start. That's
yeah.
what we say to Lola. So I thank you, Lola, for coming. I continue to encourage you. I believe that you have the ability to give back for the younger kids that attend the Boys and Girls Club or in this community. So I continue to encourage to do all that you can, especially after the pandemic that we've all come out. So thank you for being part of our community of Everyone Has a Voice, and continue on to aspire and grow in your writings. Thank you, Lola.
Yeah.